Hey guys, welcome back to Home Theater Guru. So today we're going to be installing some acoustic panels above the seating area. Now, of course, I design home theaters and I have my own little mix of DIY acoustic panels that we have hidden all throughout this room. Now, in some places, we went with some products that you really can't DIY or not very easily, like these slat panel, the wood feature here from Acoustic. We had those we installed a few months ago. While we've already got a lot of combo that does both absorption and diffusion, and we've got a lot, or some absorption where we need it, we've got all that taken care of. But as far as the ceiling goes, we've always had the ceiling feature in the front where we've got some speakers hidden in there and stuff and some acoustic panels, but over the seats, that is the last piece of the puzzle in here. Now, I actually got these panels from Audio Advice. I am partnered with Audio Advice, but I actually purchased these. I got these from the open box section. If you go to Audio Advice's website, you go click on open box, there are some insanely good deals on there. And also, if you guys find anything in that open box section, I've got a 15% off discount code on top of the already discounted prices of, that being open box. Now, some of you guys might be saying, well, I can go cut a bunch of wood blocks and, a bunch of small 2x2s or something like that and make these. There's a lot of math that actually goes into a type of diffusion like this to make sure that you're properly dispersing the sound. You're not leaving some frequencies out. You want it nice and linear, and you also don't want to just cut a bunch of blocks that you have no idea what the pattern should be. So these are actually perfectly designed. You also need a deep panel. You can't have, some diffusion panels that are 2 inches thick or deep, and they're not going to go very deep in frequency. These right here actually have data that they've posted, and as you see, from 100 hertz all the way to 5,000 hertz, they have very, very linear diffusion, which is fantastic. Now, this is a very, very dense foam, but they actually have a little bit of absorption characteristics to them as well. And as you see, right around 800 hertz, it peaks up to about a 0.4 coefficient, and right around the meat of the vocal area, which is actually a good thing. Now, it's not a huge deal where we're using them. The areas where that would be very important, we're using different types of panels. All right, so let's go ahead and get these panels up on the ceiling. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is we have to make sure that we find the midpoint of our room. We know where our panels are going to go, first of all, of course, but we need to find the middle of the room. I used a Bosch laser level to make sure that I had a nice straight line to follow as a guide. Now, you can screw these to the wall or the ceiling. You can glue them. They do have French cleats for hanging on a wall. If I was hanging them on the wall, I would have used those. I did not really want to glue anything to my ceiling, even though this room is always going to be a home theater as long as I've got this place. So I just really didn't want to glue them. I decided on screwing them to the ceiling. Now, it doesn't take many screws at all. These panels are 2x2. They're very, very light. So it really doesn't take much. One screw would actually hold them just fine, but with tape joints and stuff like that, the ceiling, it's not perfectly flat. There's some little bumps and stuff. So I used anywhere from 2 to 4 screws per panel just to get them to sit flat. And actually, I had some silver screws that were 3-inch that I used. I also used a Franklin stud finder to find all of the studs, and that is the best stud finder I have ever used. I'll have a link to that down in the description, actually. But the screws held very, very well, and I recessed them into the foam a little bit, like sucked them up in there. And honestly, I thought I was gonna have to color, because they're silver. I thought I was gonna have to come back and like color them or paint the heads a little bit. I could have gone and got black screws. I was just in a hurry. I didn't have any, so I used the silver. But honestly, you can't see the silver heads. I mean, if you got underneath it with a flashlight and pointed it straight up, yeah, you could see it then. I'm sure I actually haven't looked, but I mean, even with the lights on for the camera that I'm using right now, I've got the whole room lit up really bright, and you can't see those heads. Now I've got some lights up here, some task lighting that are slightly behind the seated head so they don't hit your cheekbones or not annoying. But I had to cut some holes for those. I was gonna use a round cutout hole saw, you know, on my drill. But then I got to thinking everything is blocks. So I was looking at it, and the way the light hit, I could actually remove 4 of the little modules of blocks, and it would pretty much land right centered in that hole that it created. So that's what I did. I just used a steak knife, a serrated, good sharp steak knife, and carefully cut them out, and it worked out perfect. Now I do want to add, I have LED lights. They're only a couple watts, you know, per LED, but they're LED, so they don't generate heat. And when I say they don't generate heat, I mean you literally, if you had your eyes closed and you put your hand over it, you can't tell if it's on or off. There's just no heat. If you have incandescence or halogen or something like that, do not put foam next to it. You know, it's just not designed to be up next to a heat source like that. So that's just something very important, something to keep in mind. But I gotta say, these look very, very cool. And you see how deep they are. It's really a very nice 3D contrast on the ceiling. It looks fantastic, just really super cool. And the first night when I got these installed, I was kind of pooped, you know, from working, you know, all the overhead work is pretty exhausting. I don't know, maybe I'm just a weenie, but anyway, I was exhausted. But the kids wanted to come in here and have their, you know, their Minecraft session or whatever. So they came in here and played, and they saw it, and of course they're all freaking out about, oh, that looks so cool, it looks like Minecraft. And as I was installing them, they were calling the other kids in, y'all come look at this, it looks really, really cool. So I mean, that was pretty neat that they, you know, they liked the way the room looked. But after they watched it that night, I asked them, I said, well, what did y'all think? Now, of course, 2 of them sit up front. They sit on bean bags so close to the dang screen. I don't know how their eyes aren't crossed. Now, I do have one of my girls sits in the chair most of the time. That's the one that actually is getting the effect from it. And she said, the room sounds bigger. And I didn't tell her that's what it was gonna do. That's just what she thought, which was pretty cool because that is exactly, you know, the desired effect from a panel like that in that location. And since then, I have watched, you know, a couple of TV shows and a little bit of video gaming, and I do agree it does make a drastic difference. Now that, of course, I already knew that. I use these when I design rooms, but it's a good A/B when you go from a flat ceiling and then you put something like this up here and you can hear the difference yourself. And especially in a smaller room where you're chasing a big sound, things like this can make a very, very huge difference, you know, because you've got a small room, you want it to sound larger, more spacious. So the room acoustics is what's gonna take you there. You can keep swapping out speakers, but you're just gonna keep on chasing your tail until you address the room. All right, guys, that's gonna be it for this one. Look down the description. There's a bunch of affiliate links if you don't mind. If you're gonna purchase something from Audio Advice or one of those places, and there's a link down there. If you wouldn't mind, use those links. It does help support the channel. Don't forget the open box. There's some awesome deals on there, and the 15% off code, which is also in the description. So that's gonna be it for this one, guys. I'll see y'all for the next one.